Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Almond, please call the roll.
President Conley,
Here.
Director Emig, Director Hogan,
Here.
Vice President Kindig,
Here.
Director McKinney,
Present.
Director Meese,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
Director Whitmer,
Here.
Director Wolverton.
Here.
8 present.
Thank you, Mrs. Almond. I'd like to welcome the public here tonight. We have a lot of business on the agenda to accomplish. Before we get into our business, we have agenda item 2.01, which is the Student Board Representative Report. I'd like to recognize Luke Mabius, Senior Representative, and Stephanie Paz Guerrero, Junior Representative, at the podium.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's been a bit. So my name is Luke Mabius, and I am the Senior Board Representative this year. You might have seen me last year, obviously. Stephanie could not join me today. She's got some other obligations, but hopefully she'll be here next time. So a little about me. I am the DECA president. I'm a member of the student council, Eagle Ambassadors Advisor, and many other clubs. I also work at Smoky Bones, so that's I serve. I'm going to tell you a little bit about DECA because it's a big part of what I do at school. So from the start of the school year, we did the recruitment phase that started, I'm going to say, we had the activity fair and we also had the freshman walkthrough. And so far we're up to about 50 members, potential members that will be in the club this year. And we're also planning some fundraisers, which will start on October 3rd. It'll be Nothing Bundt Cakes. And then we have a field trip on the 30th, hopefully, which will be the 76ers, which is sponsored by the DECA overall in the state. So next thing I'm going to cover is the painted spots. So every year the seniors get the opportunity to paint a parking spot for $40. And it gives them the entire year where they have the opportunity to have their own parking spot that other students or staff cannot park in. So it's a nice little opportunity, some way to celebrate being a senior. And there's a lot of different ones. If you ever gone to the high school, you might have gotten to see some of the painted spots. So the next thing I'd like to cover is the activity fair. So we've actually had 2 of them. One was just, I think, it's like one of the first few days of school, and the second one was on the 26th, about a week later. And that's where you had clubs like DECA, Skills USA, Eagles Nest, SAD, Avidum, the Dover Talents Touch, the theater, drama, all that, FFA, Varsity Club, Dover Dispatch, Eagle Eatery, and the Dover Tech Team. There's many more, but I couldn't really come up with all of them off the top of my head. So that's just, once again, get some I can't speak, sorry. To get people to join your clubs. So next thing I'd like to cover is the yearbook. The yearbook staff have come up with a theme. It hasn't really been revealed to the school, but I will say it here because I'm part of yearbook, so I can, and I have asked. So we're doing Spotify, and it's a mix with streaming services like YouTube and other things. And like I said, they don't plan to reveal the theme yet until the cover is officially released. The pricing is about the same, so right now it starts at $65 and it'll gradually move up over time. And some of the interesting advertising techniques they've done is they got these yellow slips and they put them on everybody's car to make them look like they had a ticket. And I mean, it worked because I was on the phone with my mom and then I said, oh God, I got a ticket. And then I bought a yearbook afterwards. So the next thing is the ALICE training, which was today actually. And ALICE, I'm sure as you all know, the alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate thing to help students in the case of emergency at the school. So we all sat in our MMAs and got a breakdown of what it is and what we should do in case of a situation that would encounter. It was very successful, obviously, and people asked questions, and overall it was productive. And lastly, I'd like to cover is that this Thursday we have Safe to Say. That is for the junior and seniors. Last week, the freshmen and sophomores got to do it. And so I'm not quite sure what happens in that because I've never been to it, but all I know is when you go to it, if you're like having struggles in your personal life and you need to talk to somebody, there's avenues for people to go to when they need to speak to somebody. So they'll go through a bigger breakdown of how they do it and how they're paired up with the other organizations. So that's everything I've got for you. There was more, but I only had a little part to cover, so and Stephanie had the rest. But does anybody have any questions? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on all of your activities. DECA president, and what's your position on the student council?
I'm just a regular council member, but in my other clubs, so DECA, I'm the president. Eagle Ambassador, I'm an advisor. We're like 4 or 5 of us are advisors. I'm the class secretary, and I have like a list of all the clubs. So
Good job.
now I just splinted all that paperwork to college, and I'm waiting for results. So
Very good. Well, probably it won't be long. You'll be ready to run for election for one of these seats. So
I'll probably
you're-
be
you're a
far gone.
doer. You're a
Think-
doer, so we applaud that. So thank you for stepping up.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. All right, this takes us to our public comment period. The board uses the public comment period as an opportunity to listen, but not to debate issues or enter into a question and answer session with the speaker. Public comments must be germane to school district business. The board values civil, respectful statements and clear, concise communications that help to inform its deliberations. Are there any people seeking board? Yes, please approach the podium. This will be for a 30-minute period, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. There'll be a timer on the screen here and there. If you see me looking over here, I'm just looking at the timer.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Diane Brocious. I am an almost 40-year resident in Dover. I teach now. I'm a long-term sub for 6th grade math at the middle school. I'm a mom. My son wrestled for Dover in the 90s and early 2000s. I'm a grandmother. My granddaughter wrestles. That's the main reason why I'm here. And I'm also the wife of the former coach of the high school team, Brad Brocious. And I have kept score for wrestling for more years than I ever want to keep track of, but that's what it is. I just want to make points that wrestling is the fastest growing sport in PA and the United States. A lot of colleges are adding wrestling programs, so that gives the girls opportunities to earn scholarships. And so if we would have a women's wrestling program, because the coaches come to, if they're recruiting girls, they will come to girls-only events just to see the girls wrestle. The benefits of the kids, even the junior high, as a teacher, I see, all you have to do is remind them, if you want to wrestle, you got to keep your grades up. You got to stay out of trouble, and it seems to help. It's a good motivator for kids who normally struggle in school to get their work done. It will benefit all the girls in Dover who would like to wrestle but are currently afraid to wrestle because they would have to wrestle on the boys' team, and it makes it difficult. I know some parents have told girls that they can't wrestle on the boys' team, so it would benefit those. They would get that experience. Wrestling is a different sport because you're an individual, but it's also a team sport, so you're working together in the team events, but you also learn tenacity and endurance through wrestling your own matches. So, and the boys' team would also benefit because they would have the PIAA match points, their own match points, so they would both have more points, be together more tournaments or matches during the season. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Mrs. Brocious? Did I get your
Yes.
name right? Okay. Thank you, Mrs.
You're-
Brocious.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing none, the public comment period is closed. We'll move on to our next session, or section, which is the board president's communication and the announcement of executive sessions. We held an executive session tonight at 6 p.m. and just completed it at 7 p.m. to discuss both legal issues and labor issues. Section 5, the consent agenda for student activity. All of these items were deliberated and questions were asked during our planning meeting last week. Are there any questions from the board tonight still unresolved regarding any of these issues? Are there any items in the consent agenda that you would like pulled out? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve agenda item 5.01?
I'll make a motion to approve 5.01 consent agenda for student activity.
Director McKinney moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Wolverton seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote. Are we still waiting on someone to vote?
Me, probably. It logged me out. Hold on just one
Director
second.
Hogan and Director Wolverton.
I didn't
I
get
didn't
it.
get it. Yeah, but,
Okay, would you like to do a voice vote?
yep.
Yes?
Yeah, it'll be yes for me.
Yes? 8 yes.
Okay, 8 yes, and the motion carries. Okay, the next agenda item is agenda item 6.01, the consent agenda for human resources. There are a number of individual items included in that consent agenda. Are there any board members who would like one of those items pulled out? Hearing none, are there any questions concerning any of the items? All right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves.
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Director Wolverton, your vote?
Yes.
Yes? 8 yes.
And the motion carries. Section number 7 is the action for contracts and agreements. Each one of these items will be taken individually. Agenda item 7.01, affiliation agreement with Commonwealth University for student teaching. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Director
Second.
Miller moves. Director Wolverton seconds the motion. Am I correct on that, Director
That's
Wolverton?
correct.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
I'll file it. I'll file it.
Director Wolverton? Yes?
Yes.
8 yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 7.02, the A.G. Morrow Company quote. The quote is attached. Are there any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Kendig seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
Do we know if there were multiple quotes gathered for this
There were
purchase?
3, I think.
There were 3. And this is through CoStar, so it will be deeply discounted most likely.
Three quotes. There you go. All right.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 7.03, automated logic contract. The contract is attached. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 7.04, Epic Special Education Staffing, Supplemental Staffing Services. The contract is attached. Are there any questions? I should say the agreement is attached. Are there any questions from the board?
I have a question in regards to their training and the equipment that they need to have to do the job. Do we expect them to come in with all the training they are supposed to have? And what's that look like for this staff?
For any of our staffing services, we provide them a list of mandatory items that they have to come in with. So obviously all of their clearances, their background checks, physical, TB. We require them to have all of our training such as mandated reporter, things like that completed. We do offer to all of our staffing agencies if we are offering training on site to participate with us during like PD days, things like that. But we, as far as equipment is concerned, we do provide them Dover equipment because they're filling a vacant position, but they do not take their equipment home with them. They leave it here in the classrooms, and then it's there for them the next day.
So they get an iPad or a laptop or something?
Whatever their position, whatever the position requires, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I might have missed it, but I don't see any specific fee listed. How's that
Was
Does
there a
it
second attachment?
vary depending on who they send us?
It does. So we always get, it's always based on whether we're gaining a teacher, a para, school psychologist, nurse. It depends what they're providing to us. Each rate is different.
So how's the fee determined?
The fee is, hold on one second. I know I added the fees to one of them. The fee structure across most of the staffing services are the same, and we negotiate that with them as part of our conversation of wanting to work with them. I'm just looking.
Are we in a time crunch on this?
For Epic, yes, because they're providing us one of our teachers for our autistic support vacancy that we have. I'm looking to see.
The only fee I see it referencing are the direct hire fees if we hire one of their contractors.
Pull up. Let me look here and see. Let me look. We could table this if we need to. I'm just needing to find some time to find the fees. If it was a separate attachment, I'm just struggling to find it in my emails
So
right now.
you could possibly find it before the end of the meeting,
I
right?
would hope so, yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to table that we can pull from the table later in the meeting?
Motion to table.
Director Wolverton moves to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Director McKinney moves a second. Is there any discussion? All right.
Can you
read-
repeat who made the motion?
Motion by Director Wolverton to table this item with the intent we can get an answer before the end of the meeting. Would you be able to add that to the agenda?
We do have it right now. And what we would do is we will approve this contract for the one specific person we're hiring because it is a fee based on, as is a teacher, it's based on what this specific person. So I can add her qualifications along with her billable rate. I can add that to the agenda.
So is there a general fee schedule that should be attached?
We are only contracting them by teacher, so I would probably say as we have candidates that we want to use their services, we can hire them each board meeting with their specific fee. Because each fee for most teachers is specific to the candidate.
Attached to the name. So
Yes,
we'll have a
and on their
motion.
qualifications, whether you have someone coming in that has 4 years experience or 20 years experience, bachelor's versus master's, similar to our scale, they're different. So this bill rate was specifically for the candidate that we are bringing on. So I can attach that right now.
So I'm thinking we should probably have two motions, and one to approve the candidate with the since all the salaries are going to be, or the fees are going to be individualized, have one motion to approve the agreement, another one to approve that individual under the agreement.
You could, and then we could just bring each person forward as under the agreement for each billable rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you put that together? We'll address the agreement now. And then we can put that on the agenda. It's going to require the board making a motion to put that on the agenda since it's happening now without the advance notice. So does the board follow what I'm talking about there? So right now, we have a motion to table. That's in discussion. The main motion is agenda item 7.04, which is there without a fee schedule. If we defeat the motion to table, we can address agenda item 7.04 and approve that. Then we would have to make a motion to accept a motion from the floor. And then if we approve that according to our policy, then we can put this motion to approve that employee on the agenda tonight. That's part, I can pull up the policy if someone needs me to do that. It'll take me a second to pull that up, but that's according to our policy.
That's a good question. In regards to the staffing fees schedule, wouldn't it just be more transparent to see their schedule? Not bring it
Well,
forward?
it sounds like they don't have a
But
schedule.
each teacher will have a different bill rate. We're primarily using Epic for teachers as we need them. So each teacher could be different. So one bill rate might be $80 per hour, another bill rate could be $85. It just depends on the teacher and the candidate that we're selecting.
Non-negotiable based on their experience?
No, when they send me who they have and their experience, they send me what their bill rate is. So if I'm interested in interviewing that candidate and hiring, that's their bill rate. So I can choose to decline based on their bill rate. I can choose to not interview them.
I see.
The fee schedules you've seen before are more for our hourly positions like para and PCAs and positions like that. That's a set rate. It's not based on the person and their experience.
Okay.
All right, so the motion on the floor now is a motion to table. We can either withdraw that motion or we can vote on it.
Make a motion to withdraw.
Second.
Okay, so the maker's withdrawing the motion. Okay, so that motion is so you withdrew
Second.
this, wait a second.
I seconded his motion.
So he made a motion to withdraw his own motion.
And
Okay, so let me go back here. So we had a motion on the floor to table, And the maker of the motion is going to withdraw the motion, as long as the person who seconded that is fine with that. Are you fine with that? Okay.
Yep.
So the motion is withdrawn.
Seconded both times.
So we'll go back to the main motion, agenda item 7.04, the EPIC Special Education Staffing Supplemental Staffing Services. Are there any additional questions before we ask for a motion to approve?
Do we need to make a motion to split it out to 2 votes for approving the agreement and then the individual staff member?
Not at this stage.
Okay.
So she's going to bring that forward later in the meeting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 7.04?
I'll make a motion to approve 7.04 EPIC Special Education.
Director McKinney moves, Director Wolverton seconds the motion, is that correct?
Depends who
Okay.
got done first, but yeah.
Okay.
Staff. Who started first?
All right, is there any discussion on the motion to approve agenda item 7.04? Now, let me ask you this, since this is part of it. I heard one member state a little bit of discomfort with the fact that there's no fee schedule, and another member that brought that topic up. How comfortable are we with approving the agreement with no fee schedule whatsoever?
Well, I guess the question for me would be, tonight we have one person that's going to be presented with their fee, I assume.
Yes.
Is that going to be the normal? If the district wants to hire additional, will that come to us?
Yes.
Okay.
So any
So-
future hires that we would do, we would bring forward to the board to approve as individual members under this agreement.
Now, that's different than you handle other staffing contracts.
Because they
So-
do, this company does it by person. So it's a little different. Each staffing agency can do it how they want to. They can either set a set fee based on their positions, or they can do it by person.
So, does it say anything, anywhere in this agreement that each individual hire would be brought before the board for approval? Does it say anything like that in here?
It probably, I can't, without looking through it, I could pull the language. I'm looking through it real quick.
I don't see any mention of the board in there.
I'm on the wrong agreement.
That'd be different for every district.
And we can put the information on this one individual, on their billable rates. So it says, the client shall pay ESES an agreed upon hourly bill rate for each hour worked by the associate. So therefore, I would have to bring it forward to you for each one. It's not by schedule.
Where are you reading from again?
That is on page 3, under compensation and payment terms. Under A, it's the first line.
Where it says an agreed upon.
Agreed upon hourly bill rate.
So if they had attached a schedule, that would be the agreed upon rate because it's in there. But since they did not,
We would have to individually approve each person.
so how does that apply with overtime hours? So
It'd be
just
overtime based on the billable rate.
based on whatever we approve times 1.5. And it also has a provision here for double time. When would double time be triggered?
We would only do, I don't know when it would be triggered, we don't do double time here, so they always align their pay schedule and hours on how we do that. So we just do time and a half. We do not have anything in our contract for double time.
Okay. So how's the board feel about that? Any concerns?
I think it's the right way to do it. But my concern, just sitting here, listening to you explain it, logistically, is that going to work?
We don't get candidates very often, teachers, through the staffing agencies, so I think we'd have enough time to be able to do that if we needed to. This is the first candidate that this company has been able to put through for us in a couple weeks, so It's not like we're approving teachers every week, and we're still trying to fill them with our own candidates. So as far as teachers are concerned, I don't use this as often as paras or PCAs. If this was a para or PCA, I would want the ability to have a schedule so I could hire as we have candidates. But with teachers, it takes time to onboard them, and it takes time, and there's very few positions I need the staffing services for the teachers. There's thankfully not as many vacant positions.
So it looks like approval would just be approval for Mrs. Jacoby to work with this company and contract with this company. And we would then approve every other appointment just like we do any other staffing appointment
Right.
on an individual basis. So this
That's
is
what it
just
sounds like.
to work with the company, a blanket
This is to work with the
contract.
company. And
So
then
I'm fine with approving that, as long as we approve the individual appointments as well.
All right, any additional discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight, yes.
And the motion carries. Next agenda item is agenda item 7.05, the ADD Ad Education Supplemental Staffing Services. Contract is attached with an attachment A as well. Are there any questions?
So this one's working differently than the one we just approved because it has a rate sheet. So the description here says to fill vacant positions. Do we know how many vacant positions? Is there a limit to the number of vacant positions that this company would fill?
we use this, it's as they have candidates available.
Okay.
We are still looking for PCAs and paraprofessionals, along with one autistic support, one life skills teacher, and one learning support teacher. So those are the vacancies we have open.
Okay.
Our goal is to continue to recruit and to hire. We have some interviews this week. I check with all of them to see how quickly I can terminate if we have an agency person, how quickly, what notice I have to give if we hire a teacher. That way we can switch them out. And so they leave it like that because it could be 2 more I need this week, and then I have 3 resignations, and I need 5 more next week. So that's why they leave it like that.
Okay.
So we do it within our budget.
Okay,
Our
and
budget
since
is
we're told the rates ahead of time, these hires would just go into the regular staff appointments and not a special vote?
We normally do not do appointments for staffing agencies.
Okay.
Because we have the rate sheets attached. So the only ones that would be coming through is the ones through Epic, because they do billable rates
Okay.
per person. And I would want you to approve the rate.
Okay.
Any additional questions?
So if they're coming from a staffing agency, we can't say, okay, at such and such a point, we'd like to hire you as a,
We can. Each agency has different language within their contract on how we can bring them on board. A time frame, it can be number of hours, it can be length of service, it just depends. Every contract is very different. So that is something we explore with each and every one of them. We have not in the past brought on any of the employees onto our own. And we have to be cautious when we have them here that there has to be so much of a waiting period from the time they worked for us through the agency till we can actually hire them, unless we want to do the buyout. But we have never done that.
You've never hired a buyout from a
Most-
company?
Most of the buyouts are very expensive.
Yeah, I know the last contract we just approved was 35% of their salary. What is the buyout on this contract?
I don't know if I know that. I don't normally, I mean, I look at it, but we have multiple agencies right now. I would not, unless I pull up the contract and look, I would not know. Buyout is not a priority for me because we don't normally do that,
Right, okay.
unfortunately,
I think I have it here, but I don't know if we want to go into it. Is it? Anyway, I'm going to skip it because I'm not a contract attorney, but I think I found it.
Is that in attachment A? Is that,
I was looking at page 10. The top.
$5,000 for paraprofessionals and $10,000 for bachelor's degree or higher? Is that's the buyout fee?
That's what it looks like in the contract, yes. And that's different from Epic, that's different from Pro Therapy, that's different than GHR, Delta T.
Right,
It's all different.
okay. All right, any other questions?
How many staffing agencies are we using right now? Do you know? I mean, does it matter? I just am curious.
Epic and ADD make it 5. We have 4 special ed and 1 custodial that we do not use as often, but we still have a contract with them if we would need them. But we don't use them as often as we did a few years ago.
You said 4 special ed.
4 special ed. That's been our challenge. Special education is our challenge.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves, is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Agenda item 8.01, bills paid report. We discussed this at the planning meeting. I'll ask the treasurer, are there any additional questions that you had answered that were were unreported since our last meeting?
There are from the last 2 check runs. There were some golf shirts that were purchased, minimal amount, but I just wanted to know the purpose of them, and they were golf shirts for student athletes to use as their team uniform. She didn't specify if it was golf, but I'm assuming it is. Lumber company purchases that said engineering in the description, and that was for the introduction to wood and manufacturing classes. They were just replenishing stock. And there was a Pi Barker was the vendor. It's only $618 for monitoring. And that was the monitoring service provided by Pi Barker for a 3-month period starting 9/1, ending on 11/30. Covers fire, fire alarm, monitoring, backup, emergency elevator, phone monitoring, area of refuge monitoring, burglar alarm monitoring for the high school. Whenever an alarm is activated, we receive a phone call and a notification from Pi Barker Monitoring Center. They also dispatch emergency personnel for the alarms. So that is just a facilities monitoring contract. And Stericycle Incorporated, district shredding. So I inquired if we had a high capacity shredder in-house that could be utilized. And based on the confidentiality of the items being shredded, the district wishes not to do that. So they secure it and send it out for shredding. And there was a charitable donation to the York County SPCA, $500. So we'll find out if that was from budget or what the purpose or the source of that was. It was the class of 2024. They raised funds out of their student activity account, and the class officers voted on how to spend their fundraising money. So that was from the students, and that was it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Are there any additional questions from the board? I only have one question. The answer that we got back on that confidential shredding services or whatever that was called.
Sure. I can read you her entire response if you'd like.
Well, that's okay. My question, because I read it, where are the items stored Since this only occurs once per year, do we have a secure location for the storing of those
It's
items?
probably a lockable box with a slot that you slide it.
Yes, they're locked bins.
In locked bins?
Yeah, we use them at my work too. They're lockable bins it's like a mail drop box, regular blue mailbox. Drop it in and
Okay.
only the vendor can access it, hopefully.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to accept the bills paid report?
Motion to approve 8.01 bills paid.
Director McKinney moves.
Second it.
Director Wolverton seconds the motion. Is there any additional discussion? Mrs. Almond?
Eight yes.
And the report is adopted. All right. Agenda item 8.02, the treasurer's report. Chair recognizes the treasurer for previously unreported questions answered.
No additional comments from last meeting.
All right, any questions from the board? All right, is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
Motion to accept.
Director Wolverton moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director McKinney seconds the motion. Any discussion? All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. Treasurer's report is adopted. Agenda item 9.01, the DAEA grievance, number 2024-2025, number 1, step 3. The motion will be to deny the grievance as posted. That's the recommended action. Motion to deny the DAEA grievance, number 2024-2025. Is there a motion to that effect?
I was going to say, you might want to have Mrs. Jacoby explain again what she said in a very simple phrase earlier for the understanding for the vote.
So keep in mind, there's some things we can't say outside of an executive session.
I believe that was Mrs. Allman that explained the vote, wasn't it?
No,
Okay.
no.
So say what you can say.
So the motion is to deny the DAEA grievance. If the board votes yes for denying the grievance, it will continue on into our grievance process per the contract. If you vote no, or the board as a whole votes no, then the grievance, it is stating you agree with the grievance, and we'll move forward with the Skills USA evaluation.
So I would agree with the first part of what you said. So if we vote yes, we're voting to deny the grievance.
Yes, that is correct.
I wouldn't necessarily agree that if we vote no, saying we're not denying the grievance, that it's saying that we are approving the grievance.
You're approving the denial of the grievance. That's probably a better way to say it. By voting.
So you see my point here
Yeah,
on
but
this? So it's slightly different than what you said. So since the motion, the recommended action here is a motion to deny the DAEA grievance. If the motion carries, we will deny the grievance. If the motion fails, I don't necessarily believe that we are approving the grievance. We would need affirmative action to approve the grievance.
before we
Now that
go any
everybody's-
further, I'd like to make a motion that we table this. We had an executive session tonight. Unfortunately, our solicitor was unable to attend our session. So I'd like to table this until next month until we can sit down with our solicitor and have a meeting to determine what direction we want to go.
So we have timelines according to the contract. I'm trying to get to the grievance procedure now. No, it's on, was it on page 13? Grievance procedure. So I don't want to read this in public, but it's a public contract because it's posted on the website, so I guess I can. So the step 3, which is where we are right now, if the action in step 2 failed to resolve the alleged grievance, the employee or the employees initiating such grievance may, within 5 days after receipt of the reply at step 2, or in the absence of such reply, within 5 days after such reply was due, refer the alleged grievance to the employer. The employer is defined as both the board and the administration back in the first part of this. Such presentation is to be in writing, setting forth the matter complained of and to be delivered to the secretary of the school board. The employer shall consider the alleged grievance at the next official school board meeting and shall reply thereto within 5 days of such meeting. The employee and or his designated representative shall be given the opportunity to speak to the full board assembled. Step 4 states if the action in step 3 failed to resolve an alleged grievance based on a complaint that there has been a violation, misinterpretation, or misapplication of the provision of this agreement, the association may, within 5 days after receipt of the reply of step 3, or in the absence of such reply within 5 days after such reply was due, refer the alleged grievance to arbitration as provided in Section 903 of Act 195, and it goes on to describe what happens after it goes to arbitration. So I think the point that you're making, Director Kindig, is that in the absence of counsel tonight during our executive session, you're recommending that we not address this. We need to keep in mind that the union, per contract, within 5 days of this meeting, would have the right to go to arbitration. What we can do is, if we elect to table this, is reach out to the union immediately and ask them for some consideration there, because effectively, by not answering it within the deadline, we would be denying it without actively doing so. So, but in order to be timely, we would have to schedule a special meeting to address this in public. So is that clear on that? Okay. All right. So there's been no motions made. If there is a motion to approve agenda item 9.01, that motion would be a motion to deny the grievance. Okay, just to be clear, and a yes vote on the grievance says you agree that we should deny it.
Wait, point of order, I made a motion to table.
You made a
Now,
motion to table, right?
You haven't called to see if there's a second. If there's a second, then we can discuss that motion
Okay.
and what the consequences of it may be.
All right, motion to table. Point well taken by Director Kindig. Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of second.
I move to deny the grievance 9.01.
All right, Director Hogan moves to approve agenda item 9.01. I know it's tricky language here. You're approving the agenda item. The motion itself is motion to deny the grievance. Is there a second?
I believe Director Wolverton seconded it.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry. Thank you. Director Wolverton seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
I think we need to vote no to this and move on, because I feel like we're spending a lot of attention on an issue that we have an employee who's deserving to teach our kids and educate them. And if it does go to arbitration, you know, my viewpoint, my perspective is we're going to be paying a lot more than just approving this and moving on.
So you want to vote yes,
No, I want to vote no.
I want to vote no.
And not deny it's what he's saying.
not deny it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought I understood.
That's, Heidi, that's why I wanted her to say what she said, because it
I
was
heard, I
clearly
heard.
spoke.
Right.
It was clear.
So if I don't want to go to arbitration, how should I vote?
No.
No.
No. Got it.
And along with, although Mr. Hogan and I don't always agree on a lot of things, this is one I definitely agree on, because we will spend a lot of money nonsensically going through arbitration. I've been there with, as a union president. You don't want to do this, because I can't see that we would win this with the wording that's in, that we have dealt with in here.
All right, any further discussion?
I made the motion earlier, because for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions. So you now put me in a dilemma of how I'm going to try and vote, because I have a lot of unanswered questions, and the only person that can answer those is the solicitor. But I understand we're following the procedure. I'm okay with that. I'm just letting you folks know I'm in a dilemma, so.
I think we're all in a little bit of a dilemma as well, so, yeah, that's why we get paid the big bucks, right?
Excuse me. I have similar concerns to Director Kindig. We scheduled an executive session tonight to get some specific answers, and unfortunately, due to unforeseen events, our solicitor was not able to be here tonight. And of course, he provided that rationale to the board, so you're all aware of it, and I don't want to air that. But I would like to get answers to that. Unfortunately, we have a grievance procedure that has deadlines to it. I feel like we owe an answer unless we can get some kind of concession from the union on this. Because what I think we could do is we could end up denying this grievance and putting ourselves into some exposure by going to arbitration that it sounds like some board members aren't willing for us to incur. And I think that makes some sense. However, there are other technical issues associated with this. If we defeat this motion to deny the grievance, now it's debatable of whether that means that we're approving the grievance. That also has some consequences moving forward, because it could have, one of the consequences, it could solidify the whole debate about what sets precedents or not. And so I would love to have those answers before we made a decision here, but unfortunately, we don't have it. We do have a recommendation from the administration to deny the grievance. They previously denied it in step 2. So put that out there for board consideration. I'm on the fence, honestly. That doesn't help anybody. I think it put a bigger question mark.
I just want to be clear that I do support our teachers, our education, our programs, and I think CTE is doing a fantastic job. That's not what we're having a hard time with at all, and so, you know, I don't know. I feel like we've kind of come down to 2 options that just seem like not the best scenario at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult the way it's come down to this.
I'll say one additional comment. It might give some clarity. There's expense associated with going to arbitration that we may win a principled point. Right now, we're working well with the union, except for this. I don't know why this wasn't fully addressed in the contract negotiations last fall, but it got kicked forward, and so here we are dealing with one of the IOUs that was assigned to us from the previous contract negotiations. I only know part of the reasons why they did that, in full disclosure. But the differences in the numbers don't really make sense if you're just doing the math. Without the proposal from the union, we're going to pay more, and I think that's the point Director Hogan makes. By going to arbitration, we're going to pay for the arbitration, and we may not win anyway. So we've got to make a decision on what it's worth to us to get to that location. The only thing I would disagree with you, Director Hogan, is we're not trivializing at all the value that's offered by this agreement. They're providing, services, advisor services to our children involved in programs, and those are very important programs, and we want to support that 100%. I think the real issue is how do we get to this point that we're at odds when really we're not really disagreeing. We're disagreeing about how we got here, not what we're talking about necessarily.
I have a question. Mrs. Jacoby, when does this contract end specifically?
2028.
Yeah.
When?
2028.
2028.
Yeah, 2028.
Okay.
Sorry, we have
Well, I'll
multiple.
let you guys know, your standard arbitration runs between usually $5,000 to $10,000 at a minimum, just so you guys know. So you can count on that's what you're going to spend. And I don't see this being one of those ones that goes into the $10,000, $15,000 mark, really. But I'd say right around 10. And as I said, with the wording that's been in here, in my experience, yeah, we're gonna lose. That's my opinion of it.
So if the majority of the board votes no, the MOU stands.
The way I understand it, yes, because the grievance has SALT relief, which is implementing the 3 advisors and the extra ones onto the extracurricular. That's what they're seeking relief on.
Okay. And then we don't vote on that MOU, so then it's done.
I do
So
not
if the
believe
majority
so.
of the board votes yes, it goes on to arbitration. Okay.
If the union takes it to arbitration,
Yes,
they could
got
accept
you.
it, right?
Okay, I understand, okay.
That is correct.
Any further discussion? All right, before we go to a vote, just want to be clear, a yes vote is a motion to deny the grievance. A no vote is to defeat the motion to deny the grievance. Any questions about that? All right. Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
One yes, 7 no.
And the motion fails. All right. Agenda item 9.02, donation from staffers of Kissel Hill in Dover, Pennsylvania. 1,204 seed packets, retail value of $3,061.76 for CTE horticultural program. Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Director Miller seconds the motion. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
8 yes.
And the motion carries. I'd like to thank the Stoffers for that generous donation, and I'm sure the CTE program does as well. Mr. Benton is shaking his head. Very good. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 9.03, the sponsorship of girls wrestling program. Are there any questions? I'll read this for the benefit of the public. The administration is recommending approval for the sponsorship of a girls wrestling program. This will allow our female wrestlers to participate in girls wrestling regular season matches without impacting competition points for the boys wrestling team. The establishment of a girls wrestling program will also assist our female wrestlers in qualifying for postseason competition. Several weeks ago, a presentation was made by Dr. Wiesling and the coaches, and that was well received by the board. Are there any questions?
I move to sponsor the girls wrestling team.
Second.
Director Hogan moves to approve. Director McKinney seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
Currently, the way it was presented, there'll be minimal cost associated with this. Because I believe the boys wrestling coach is going to also take on the girls wrestling team. But at some point, I think it would be good, and I don't know exactly how we go about doing it, but it would be good to have Dr. Wiesling look at the girls wrestling program and give us a figure of what he thinks it's going to cost in the future. Just so we have an idea of what we may be looking at. I mean, it was presented as a minimal cost to start it, which I can't find fault with. But if this grows in interest, as many think it might, what does that entail? It'd be good for us to at least have some idea what we're looking at in the future as far as cost.
I think you make a good point, Director Kendig. This is a girls wrestling program, but if it were a motion, and say we didn't have a varsity football team and there was a motion to establish a boys varsity football team, it would be highly irregular if that came forward without any cost analysis associated with that. So that's what we have here, is a program being initiated by the administration seeking board approval without any cost projections. So I think that that's certainly in order to ask for that and to expect that. I checked through our policies to see if there were any policies that addressed how do you establish new programs, sports programs, what have you, in the school, and I didn't see any policies in my search today regarding that, but that doesn't mean they're not in there. It just means I couldn't find them. They weren't in there. But I think there should be a process for establishing new programs. Now, I'm not bringing this up in any way to indicate that I'm against this particular program. I think girls wrestling program certainly makes sense for all the reasons stated in the public content statement that I just read. However, I would expect that there would be some projections there. It may be in order for a motion to amend the motion that's on the floor now to limit it to just this year, that we're approving the program for this year, and that will force the issue to come back to the board with those associated cost projections for the out years, because I can see it's not going to cost much to start this. We're using the same coaches, possibly same equipment, maybe have some uniforms they have to purchase or whatever, but down the road, if it grows beyond 2 or 3 participants, it may be costly. Justifiably costly. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you know, we're adding on to our programs here, and we're trying to contain our budget at the same time. So I am putting that out there. If anyone agrees and you want to make a motion to amend this year, we'd certainly accept that motion to amend. But the motion on the floor now is as stated by the recommended action that's before you.
I'll make a motion to modify the current motion, that we make the motion that we approve this for this year. The athletic department gets us some numbers so we can look at it, and we'll go from there.
So the motion, if amended, would read, administration recommends motion to approve sponsorship of girls wrestling program for school year 2024-2025. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Director Kindig moves to amend, the motion to amend, and Director Miller seconds that motion. Is there any discussion concerning the amendment only?
Yeah, I do believe the issue with doing that, limiting to only this winter season, is that it's not going to be up and running this season. I believe in the presentation, they said it'll be next school year when they actually have it up and running for competition. Is that correct?
It'll be this year.
Okay.
It's this year? I
So I was
thought the
looking through my
presentation
notes.
was that they would be wrestling this year.
This year, it would allow the girls to compete in other tournaments, all-female tournaments, without deducting competition points from the boys. And then it would also allow the girls to be eligible for postseason competition, correct?
Thanks for clarifying that.
My only concern would be whether or not one season of girls wrestling would be sufficient enough to be able to gather enough data to say, this is how much we see, costs accruing in the future. So, I mean, I don't know if we would have to pull from maybe other school districts' projected costs too, if they've had the program longer than us. I don't know if we could have any input on that. But maybe 1 year is not sufficient to get numbers. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there.
And maybe it's not, but I think it's a good place to start. That'll get the coaches to bring in the data. We'll be able to look at it right away come, January, February timeframe.
That'll be the end, that'll be, March is the end of the season. That's what the states is, so.
So, go from there.
And so what we would be looking for, if this motion is successful, to amend it, and we establish a girls wrestling program, is to have like a 5-year projection of what we're looking to spend on the sports program. I think that makes sense.
I mean, my opinion is we can do that, but if you look at the cost, it's still going to be, you got the team on the same bus traveling to the same competition. So there's no added cost there. You got the gym that's already being provided with mats. You might have minimal costs. I mean, it doesn't seem to be like, I'm not against what you're saying. I'm just saying it doesn't appear to be an expensive sport. They're not really buying helmets and pads and things of that nature. So it's kind of a moot point, in my opinion, but I will entertain whatever you guys feel we need to talk
But
about.
at the same time, on a Saturday afternoon, whatever type thing, you also have to pay for a janitor in the school. Am I correct? You have to have the school unlocked, security and everything else. So all those other costs come into
So I
it.
think that's already going on with the boys' team. So all you do is,
Are they necessarily with the boys' team all the time? See, that's an
Yeah,
issue.
For,
The matches would.
I can talk, right?
You could,
Yes,
Yeah,
go
you,
right
why
ahead.
don't you come to the
Yeah,
podium?
So for this initial year, I don't see any of that because we won't be hosting anything. Nothing will be here. Everything, we will be traveling to schools. And like I said, we don't know the numbers we're going to get. Like I said, it's all based on you guys' vote, and I'm going to do sort of an open gym for just girls. Say, okay, this is how many show up. Then I could come back and sort of give you an idea of, okay, this is what we offered. It was offered. This is how many girls showed up for it. But for this year in particular, we will only be traveling 2 places. We will not be hosting anything, because we don't have the ability to do that yet. And we won't need buses. It'll just mean, it still costs to you guys, because we'll be taking the vans, because we don't need a full bus for if we have 4 girls. But yeah, none of it will be coinciding with the boys stuff. It's all going to different places. Girls tournaments are completely separate from the boys tournaments. And that was the whole issue with this, was getting, having our girls being able to go to their own competitions to compete instead of going to the boys competitions. So it will be a separate cost, if you want to say it, but it won't be a bus. So I don't know what the difference is between you guys paying E&B to take us on a bus, or whether we take the school provided vans. 'Cause that's what we do. Like for postseason at the end of the year, we don't take the school buses to our sectionals. We take the vans, because it's a lot easier. We just take 2 vans. Each coach drives one, and then we don't even use. I mean, I don't know if E&B they supply the vans that we guys use here. Yeah. So after, the only time we use the buses is when we go to the school competitions. Most tournaments we take the vans, because those can run till 10, 11, midnight sometimes. So it's a little bit of a hindrance, especially for a bus driver to go there, drop us off at 8 o'clock and then sit around for 12 hours while we have a competition. But with what you originally asked, it would be separate for this year.
And one of the things like I'd be looking for is the idea of you contacted any athletic directors to see if there was any breakdown that they had as to what it cost them. And just to give us anything.
And Diane could have, because Diane, she's part of the Sanctioned PA committee that brought girls wrestling into Pennsylvania. She helped jumpstart it with, it's Pat Tachi from Penn Manor. So, and like I said, it's still new. So this is only the second year, going into the second year. So like, I know you want data, but it's still new.
Well, I think that's my
Oh, yeah,
point, is
yeah.
that how could we get enough? And
Yeah.
so now that you're up here, Mr. Schimmel, could you maybe give your thoughts on, say the program would grow,
Yes.
and we have, a projected interest where we don't see an end to the program. So would that require another facility for them to practice
No.
more mats?
No. No.
Like how would
Nope.
you see
No.
that managed?
Yeah, so as of right now, the high school and the junior high, we practice at the middle school in the Aux gym. Last year, we were able to create a little bit of a collaboration with the gym teachers over there, because our issue that we had originally, and like I said, this is way before any of you, when they built, every other school you go to Northern, you go to Central, they have a dedicated wrestling room where the mats go down and they stay down. When they built this new school, apparently it was in the plans originally, and by the time it got finalized, it disappeared. So who knows? So what we've been doing is, like I said, the problem is the mats that we bought when the new school was built. We got 3 brand new mats. We have our competition match is in the lift at the high school. We have in the Aux gym at the high school, we have another mat that was purchased. And we actually, last year, we took one of our other mats that got purchased when the new school was built, and we took it to the middle school in their Aux gym, which we use the mats that were already existing. I mean, the one mat is from when I wrestled here 20 years ago, is still there. So we are using the mats that are already there. For what you're asking for the facilities, like I said, the junior high and the high school will still be over there. For the time being, the girls will be with us. If this turns into something and we get a good turnout, and we don't really know that at this point. Originally, we practiced, the first year when this new school was built, we practiced at the high school. But the problem we had there is that because of the gym classes use the Aux gym there, we had to roll the mats up every single night. And our mats, they're not like, I mean, you had to been to a wrestling match, but when I wrestled, the mats were the big, heavy, foam mats. They were. Now everything is this lightweight material, and it's sectioned off. The mats that we purchased are like Ziploc. So it's like a Ziploc that holds, there's 5, I think ours are 7 sections. So there's a Ziploc that holds the mats together, that you have a roller that it actually keeps it together. The problem we were having is when every time you unroll that, you roll it back up, those seams start to break. So that was our issue. And I know Coach Brocious was here when that all took place, and he was actually keeping pieces in a Ziploc bag and giving them to Dr. Weiss, saying, look, every time we roll these mats up, this is what's happening. They're not going to last if we keep having to do this. So after Brad resigned and went to Gettysburg College to coach, I said, well, is there any way that we could use the middle school? Because over there, I know they have, the school they don't use the aux gym as much as they use the aux gym here. The aux gym at the high school, they use the batting cages are in there. They use it for like floor hockey and stuff like that. There's an extra a set of basketball hoops over there. Over there, we didn't have that problem. And I was able to work when Mr. Miller was there and Mr. I think it's Ross Spangler and Mrs. Smoker was there. We were able to make a schedule, and it was okay. This week we don't need the room, so you can leave the mats out. And we were able to work. The problem over there too, and what helps us is our youth program uses the aux gym over there as well. So we would put the mats down if they were rolled up, and then the youth comes in at 6 o'clock till 8 o'clock Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. So it all worked out for that. If the program would, the girls program would grow big enough where we would need another space, we can still use the aux gym at the high school because there is still a mat there that would substantiate them to be able to practice there. Because as of right now, I think they use that for off-season stuff. And since wrestling is a winter sport, we always have the priority for in season. So if that would be the case, and we would eventually have to move the girls over there, that is not an issue. It's not like we need to rent like someplace or anything like that. We have the facility to use, and technically we could still be practicing over there if we wanted to, but it benefited us to be at the middle school with the youth coming in there and being able to keep the mats down where we're not putting all the stress on rolling them up, putting them out, rolling them up, putting them out.
Thank
I mean,
you.
we still had to do that, but it wasn't as much of a problem as it was at the high school.
Thank you for that
Yep.
information.
Okay, before you leave the podium.
Yes.
So everyone else knows who you are. Just
I'm Coach
identify
Schimmel. I'm the head varsity wrestling coach. Yep. And this whole thing it stemmed because, and like I said, when I gave him a presentation, it was Jazari Abney. She was supposed to come tonight. I was hoping she was going to come. But like I said, it's the competition points. No matter what all was talked about anywhere else, and I know there was stuff that was flying around through newspapers, stuff like, all we want this for is for the points. That was it. I want to be able to not hinder our boys program because I reached out to 3 other coaches that are running all girls tournaments this winter, but they're 3 competition points because they're individual tournaments. So even if I only have 2 girls this year with Eleanor, her granddaughter, that's 9 points that come off the 22 from our boys, and we just can't. Even with our regular season plus the tournaments we're already dedicated to with the boys, we're already way over our 22 competition points. So in the end, that was all we wanted for is the competition points. So when we get to the end of the year for the postseason, our girls will have a record where when we go to sectionals, districts, stuff like that, they have something that they can base their seeding off of. Like I said, if they don't wrestle any, because PIAA, now that it is sanctioned in Pennsylvania, if they don't wrestle any girls, like if Jazari wrestles 5 boys and beats 5 boys, when seeding goes for sectionals, that all goes away because they only will seed her based on her matches against other girls.
Okay, thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate that. So the motion that is before us is a motion to amend by adding the words "for school year 2024-25" at the end of the motion. Is there any further discussion around the motion to amend?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Don't we have the ability during the budget process to cut a program if we choose to do that? So if we see that it's too expensive, don't we have the ability then to cut a program? Why wouldn't we just allow the program without any limit on a school year? And then if we have to cut it, if we see it's getting too expensive and they're not doing fundraisers or they're not, doing the things that they should be doing to help pay the costs of it, then we could
Yeah,
cut
we
it then.
wouldn't-
Like, I don't
We
understand
didn't
why
have
we
to
would
say
have
cut, we could just set their budget or.
Yeah, or set their budget, yeah. I don't understand why we'd have to reevaluate this next school year. I don't understand why we just
Yeah,
can't
and for the
implement
first school year, I have in my notes that the booster club's covering all the entry fees anyway, so it's gonna be very minimal
Yeah.
cost. The girls who wrestle already have uniforms, they have space, entry fees are covered, transportation's not coming out of E&B. There's very little cost for this year to even examine.
I think we should approve it
Agreed.
without a contingency, and, I mean, trust that they'll, or reexamine it if it gets out of hand and they're, and it's costing us a lot of money. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, currently they said they have 4 or 5 junior high and high school. There's more coming up later potentially, but for the first couple years, it's going to be very minimal, if any, additional cost to the boys program, it sounds like.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is a motion to amend. You ready to vote? The motion to amend? Mrs. Almond, are you ready? Yes. Okay, let's call the vote on the motion to amend. Okay, hold on a second. So we have to approve the motion to amend first. So this motion is just to add the words for the 2024-2025 school year at the end of the motion. What's that?
I saw that on there.
It's on there, but that, if we act on that, we've approved an amended motion. We just had, previous speaker said, speaking against amending it.
Right.
So not everyone's in favor of amending the motion. We need to dispense with the motion to amend first.
Correct.
She sent out.
No. She sent out a motion to approve the girls wrestling program for the school year, as if the motion had already been amended.
I voted wrong then.
I need
Yeah.
to,
I reset the votes.
Okay, very good. So this motion to amend the motion to approve sponsorship of girls wrestling program for the it should really just say to add the words for the school year, or for 2024-2025 school year.
okay. That doesn't make sense. Can we just do a voice vote to,
No,
on the
no,
amendment?
no, we got to make, it's got to go in the minutes, so it's got to be right. Yeah.
It does have to be right, so
Yeah.
take a look and see if that's how you want it.
So the motion to amend should state, add the words for the 2024-2025 school year.
By adding,
And if that
yeah, that,
passes, then the main motion will be amended with those words added.
Okay.
Yes, okay. So we're going to be voting only on the amendment, not on the main motion.
okay.
Amend by adding the words for the 2024-2025 school year. All right, call the vote.
Motion to amend by adding.
Three yes, 5 no.
And the motion fails. So we return to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main motion to approve the sponsorship of the girls wrestling program?
Let's vote.
All right, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote. Is that somebody seeking the floor? I'm sorry. Okay, please call the vote on the main motion.
Seven yes, 1 no.
And the motion carries. Congratulations. That was a lot of wrangling back and forth, but we're successful. We're supporting a girls wrestling program, the first time in Dover's history.
Yes, first in history.
There you go.
All right.
Thank you.
That's a pretty big deal.
It's for the girls to come, because there's a lot in our youth program, so it's somewhere for them to go. Because I don't want to lose girls to other school districts because we don't have one here. And that's an issue that I was afraid of. The parents, if there's nothing here, parents will say, okay, we're going to, I don't know if people uproot their families right now with the way that housing is right now, but that has been a problem in the past where girls will go where they have a team to wrestle on, so.
We've lost quite a few kids this past season. We've lost quite a few kids in the school districts right now.
Yeah, so.
All right, very
Thank
good.
you.
Well, we're in the right direction now.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Let's go to agenda item 9.04, use of Dover Area High School as a polling location for November 5th, 2024 election. That's the general election, which is the upcoming presidential election. This one will probably be equally as controversial. Are there any questions? I feel like I need to present some of the information that I presented to frame this up. We received a request in February from the President of the County Board of Commissioners to use one of our school facilities as a polling location, seeking some relief from the congested precinct number 1, which was previously at the community building at Lara Park. Last year was moved to New Creation Church on the corner of E. McVille Road and what's the other name? Oakland. That location also has some challenges due to limited parking and a relatively small size building itself. Precinct 1 is the largest of Dover District's 5 precincts, the borough being the smallest. So the county is looking at some relief. They are referencing a statute that in the election code, and I think it was section 527, I'm going from memory, so don't quote me on that, that says that whenever possible, that they should use school facilities, among some other language that was in that statute. That statute, according to the state election code, provides the county with the authority to select one of our schools, and then we would be compelled to comply with that selection and support it. However, the county, in their subsequent letter to us, expressed that they did not wish to use their authority under the statute, that they were just still requesting the use of one of our schools. So that puts it into a different category. There is a public school code that addresses that. Let me make sure I've got, I had the reference for this in the email that I put out. I forget what section this is. This is in 1949, Act 14, Section 775. I think I'm quoting that correctly. It says use of school buildings for other purposes. The Board of School Directors of any district may permit the use of its school grounds and buildings for a variety of activities. Included in that long list are primaries and elections. The use thereof, there's a qualifying statement at the end of that paragraph which says the use thereof shall not interfere with school programs. So we went through that phrase interfere to see how that would apply to our school operations. So because we had the offer from the administration to go to remote learning day, for example, at the high school, and that's the location we're talking about. If we went to a remote day, we would actually not be interfering with the school programs. We would still be accomplishing that, and those hours would count towards our required hours by the state, which is 990 hours per year for the high school. The challenge is with our special education students. We don't have a good option for them. We can't reassign them to another school. So we also, due to security concerns that have been validated by the Northern Regional Police Department, that they do not recommend having a polling place in a school where you have students. So we would be taking those students out of school for that day. So there is some impact there. Now, whether it is deemed an interference with their overall education for the year is subject to an inquiry or a challenge. I think that's the most I can say about that. All right, so we have a policy, and this was brought up, and I had one opinion that I expressed to one of our constituents that I was fairly confident of, and we were expecting to discuss this in detail with council tonight. We're unable to, as we mentioned before on one of the previous issues. The School Policy 707 has an application process, and in one of the attachments to that, there is a schedule of fees and a categorization for all of the entities that would ask for that. And in Group C of the categories, the York County Board of Elections, I think it states the York County Election Board, is included in Category C. So if they would request that without using their authority, they'd be subject to her guidelines, including a fee schedule, which is $75, if I remember right, in that policy. So that's where we are as a board, and so if we were to approve the Dover Area High School as a polling location for November 5th, it would only be under the condition that the county would complete the application and comply with this fee schedule, since they are not using their authority as granted under the election code. I don't even know if they're willing to do any of these things. So, doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that we will be approving it. Now, there's one thing that the county stated in their letter that makes a lot of sense to me. One of them was in the public interest due to the amount of crowding with Precinct 1. We may, and they didn't say this, but I am concluding that based on their statement, it's in the public interest, and what I know about the issue was my investigation to it, we could have the effect of disenfranchising some of our voters with long lines at the polling place during the general election, presidential election. And because I know people have jobs, they've got to be at jobs, they plan to show up at 7 o'clock, and if they can't get through the lines, they're going to be late for work, that type of thing. Not everyone has the luxury of working for someone that's going to provide some excused absence for going to the polls. The polls are open until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock?
Correct.
So they do have time after hours, but I know from standing, even in the primary and the off-cycle election, the municipal election last year, there's a rush right at the end of the day to try to get everybody in. If they show up there again, can't get in before the polls are closed, the result is a disenfranchisement of them, unable to cast their vote. Some people, I know they have the option of mail-in voting, which is being encouraged, I think, by both parties. Some people personally object to that. They want to cast their vote in person. So that's what we're dealing with. So the motion is to approve the polling location at the Dover High School. So before we go to a motion, are there any questions about anything I said or any questions about the topic in general? All right.
I just want to further state that as far as for myself, if they want that high school, they have the election board has a legal right to basically confiscate it for the day. Let them do that. We're here for public education for these kids. It'll disrupt certain aspects of the educational system that we have at this school district. I don't recommend giving it to the election board. They have a basement inside that fire hall in Dover Borough that they have not looked at. They could have looked at that. They could have pressed this issue earlier in the year and gotten things out of the public school system. They didn't.
Actually, they did look at that. I wrote a letter to them last week and asked them to assess the carousel building over at Brookside They provided their feedback on the assessment, was not going to work. Asked them for the Dover Fire Hall basement here in the borough, that was a Union, what's it called? Union Fire and Hose, I think. So they assessed that basement facility. They said that wasn't going to work. I asked for their assessments that they had for, already for new creation. I asked for the middle school because that's what they originally asked for, but we were the ones that had security issues that we couldn't provide that. But I wanted their assessment nonetheless on that, and I sent that out to the board.
Well, let me just say this. They said that they didn't meet their requirements. I'd like to know what their actual requirements are, because all you're doing is standing a few people in line for a short period of time to vote. That's what it's required. I've been in operations where thousands and tens of thousands of soldiers have been in operation, and we go right down the line, we get things done. My issue is they want picture perfect this and that. High school's nice and easy to use. That is why they want it. Bottom line is, we're here for public education. We're not here to provide a public voting place. If they want it, let them use state law and take it, but don't give it to them. I'm not here for that.
One of the things that they liked about the high school was the amount of parking. No other facility in the whole district has the amount of parking that the high school has.
I'll argue that in a heartbeat, because that fire hall certainly does. Mr. Hogan verified that also the other meeting. Am I correct?
I didn't verify it.
Well, you know what I mean.
I asked the
You
question,
made
and,
it- They have an entire field in the back of that.
but I
fire hall.
think what the letter stated was, because that's, right, I thought that was a good option, but the letter stated the borough also votes there, right? So
Right.
there's already that
There's already a polling place
being
there.
utilized for.
But I believe they do have very substantial parking
Yes.
with the Fireman's Carnival. I believe they could use that as the bigger precinct, number one. And the borough, I believe, has 600, 700, 800 voters. They could find anywhere else for that, or even combine it. It wouldn't be out of the question to have those two.
They won't park in the grass. They won't park in the grass for good reason. You think about it, it's November, there's always a chance of snow. We've had snow on Halloween before, just a few years ago. They need to have people parking in a place that's plowable. So anything could happen, and it makes sense.
Slight
And
chance,
So
yeah.
if there's already a precinct voting there, and they're gonna be packed too, because it's a general election, I feel like they're making a good case for not parking in the grass.
Another issue with going to the fire hall in Dover Borough is getting there. So it's either through the intersection at Carlisle Road and Canal, which is already very slow to get through, or come up Park Street and exit there,
And I'll
which is
argue-
hard to get out there.
I'll argue all these people aren't going to be there at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, the bottom line is, this is just a quick fix for the county. That's all it is.
And the other one was coming up Fox Run. But, and that's taking everybody that's on the, what is that, the southwest corner of the district, which is where precinct 1 is. In any case, just as FYI, the Northeastern School District, the Red Line School District, York City District, and Spring Grove District, and Eastern York County District have offered up their schools under this same request. So are there any other comments?
Can we add that it would only be for this election and not?
Can't verify that.
Actually, this motion, if we approve this agenda item, it's only for the November 5th
Okay.
election, 2024.
And
Is that clearly stated?
Yes,
is Mrs. Wheeler aware of that
yes,
motion, and that's what we are proposing?
right. And
I'd
she's
feel
aware that we
comfortable-
have a problem with the impact on Keystone assessments and whatever other
Just to make it
assessments.
clear for the county,
APN.
I think I would want to amend that just to add language. Polling location for the November 5th, 2000 election and no subsequent elections. Or something to that matter.
Well, I think it's redundant because it says.
It's redundant, but I just wanted to be clear to the county.
Yeah, well, we can be clear when we provide our answers back to the
Okay.
county. Is there a motion to approve agenda item 9.04?
I'll motion to approve.
Director Whitmer moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Is there any discussion?
It sounds like there was concern about future. For me, if this was a request for next year's school year, I could fully get behind this and say, yes, let's do this. The school has time to adjust their calendar. And then we wouldn't have some of the issues we have right now. My difficulty with this, on one hand, I think it's the right thing to do for the community to give them a good place to go vote where there's plenty of parking. But on the other hand, we have the issue with we have a section of students that could be negatively impacted by this. And quite frankly, I'm tired of dealing with this. I feel like we've been pushing a rope for about 6 months now on this subject. And I'm frustrated with the county not getting on top of this and really bringing it to us and pushing it. Yes, we got a letter in February. Yes, in March, we put it on the agenda. Yes, we discussed it. I, for one, was thinking, one, the administration was not in favor of it. And secondly, based on what the county had given us, it seemed like this was something the county would like to have, but if we didn't approve it, they'd find somewhere else. And now here we are, September, and it's somewhat crunch time. And again, I feel like I've been dealing with a rope that I'm trying to push and it just isn't going anywhere. So another subject I'm on the fence on. I'm really struggling with approving it for this November. Again, if the county came to us and said, starting next year, we'd like to use your schools, I think then that would give us time as a board and administration. Let's set the calendar up accordingly and we can make this work. But I'm struggling with, we're what, 49 days away from election or something like that, so.
I'm in agreement. We talked about disenfranchising voters earlier if we don't provide them with a big enough space. But I worked the last few elections at the polls where they have moved, made last minute moves. And that disenfranchises voters probably even more so, where they show up one place, it's not their polling place anymore, they've got to drive somewhere else, they don't have time, or they're just frustrated and don't vote. I don't want to move polling places again last minute, right before an election. So if they've got it, if they have plans to keep it at new creation, even though it's going to be a little traffic backup or a substantial traffic backup, I'd rather not keep moving voters around every single election. That's messing with their right to vote even more so, I believe.
Well, in the situation of new creation, I don't know what would be worse. If people have this horrendous traffic situation, they see it and they say, okay, never mind. Or if they go there and they find out, oh, they moved us, and they can drive to their polling location and get voting done in a decent amount of time. I, for one, I feel like the county found that this is our best option, considering what's happening in the country, as far as a lot of people are really watching, and they're expecting a high turnout. So if we can provide the space, again, I'll state, like, this is our community. You know, all these families, all these kids, their grandkids, everybody's connected here. So why would we focus on one select part of our community to say that's more important than the community as a whole? That's how I feel about it. They're buildings for the children, yes, I understand that. But it's one day, and our community is bigger than just the kids. think we need to think of the community as a whole.
Yeah, my feelings are, taxpayers own the buildings, and there's a need to, a public interest where the high schools need it for a very important event. We've gone through every other option we could try to figure out. I mean, I thought the Brookside option was a good option, this and that, but you know, every option has a very negative draw where you're going to disenfranchise voters. The Creation Church isn't the right building for our public use. In terms of remote learning, like I said before, I don't have a problem with it. My kids thrive remote learning. It's a good thing. In my opinion, I'd like a 4-day school week and have Fridays all for remote learning. So that's another, discussion. But the only thing I like what Rob said about the voter cards have been out, they've been printed, and now you're going to move it again. So then I listened to Carmen, and she has a valid point in that which is the better option. So in my mind, I have to come up with which is going to be the better option of public interest. But I don't have a problem. I know it's an inconvenience to use the high school. I know that. But at the same time, we're talking, 25,000 households in Dover, something like that, that are impacted, not in totality because we have our different precincts, but as a community, we're impacted, so.
Yeah, I do agree with Carmen and your sentiment that it's public building, belongs to the community. I would love to be able to open it up there, but it's just been poorly handled by everybody, I guess, involved. And it's last minute now. And I think that's what's going to be detrimental to the voters if we move this last minute. If we had organized this, if the county had gotten this all buttoned up in June with plenty of time to notify the community, I think let's do it.
I mean, in all fairness,
Good
it's
civic
not
lesson to
the
the
county
students, but
that pushed it to where we're at now. It was our situation. And
That's why I said all parties involved.
Right, but I would hope that the county would do their part to communicate, whether that's a mailer or something, find, communication with the township to address the idea of getting the information out to those who are going to be affected. I mean, they've got to decide, but they need time.
Yeah, well, based on working the polls the last few moves with the District 1 and 2, I don't foresee a huge mailer or any flashing signs for the public.
Yeah, I hope they don't drop that in our lap.
From what I understand on the precinct cards, they only went out to those that they were trying to balance. So if you're on a border and they were trying to shift, I think there was 4,500 or so registered voters in precinct 1, and they were trying to shift those boundaries to balance the load on the surrounding precincts. So some got moved from precinct 1 to precinct 2. Some got moved from precinct 1 to I think precinct 4, which is one of their adjacent precincts. So I don't think cards went out to everyone. I didn't receive one at my house. So in any case, I'll go back to the Public Election Code, which is Section 527. Public buildings to be used where possible. And it says, in selecting polling places, the County Board of Elections shall, whenever possible and practicable, select schoolhouses. That's the first thing they address: schoolhouses, municipal buildings, or rooms or other public buildings for that purpose. And there's a whole list of contingencies if they're unable to do so, which seems like it's more now, it's the norm to use non-public buildings than it is to use these public buildings. This one is a tough one because there's so much. If we would have taken this on, now granted we were a new board when this request came in, we were embroiled in budget issues until June. in July, when we started bringing this back up, we just have not moved to the point that we are now with an up and down vote. But here we are, we're 49 days out, we're within the time frame that they need. And whether they go with applying through our policy or whether they go with the time frame that they need to put out the notices, they still have time to put out the notices, as I understand. So I look at what's in the public interest. If I could have this perfectly done, I would say, county, use your authority and just make a decision. We will go, based on your reaction. But they're choosing not to do that, which puts the whole onus on us. If there's overcrowding at precinct number 1 at New Creation, if they like to keep it there, we will own responsibility for a part of that, for not offering up, another venue, which we have another venue. However, we offer up the high school, as we already talked about, there are some impacts. All right, any further discussion? So we have a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded to use the Dover High School as a polling location for November 25th, 2024 election. That will be only for that election. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Four yes, 3 no.
Mine wasn't recorded.
Yours was recorded, not present at vote. Would you like to change your vote?
I did vote, but I did vote no.
Okay. Four yes, 4 no.
And the motion fails due to lack of a majority. All right, I will report that to the county. Next item on the agenda are the approval of the minutes of the August 27th, 2024 board meeting. There's a link with the attachment of those minutes. Are there any corrections, edits, or deletions for the minutes? Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion to approve.
Director Wolverton moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogan seconds the motion. Any discussion? Mrs. Almond, please call the vote.
Eight yes.
And the minutes are adopted. All right, we go to our director reports. Chair recognizes Director Hogan for the Dover Eagle Foundation.
Yeah, I talked to Rob about it. We both concur that there's nothing to report.
All right, we'll go to the next one, York Adams Academy. Director Emig is not here with us this morning. Anyone prepared to deliver that report? All right, the next one is York County School of Technology. We have a meeting next week on Thursday night. Nothing to report. Next one is the LIU number 12, York Learning Center Joint Authority. Director Miller is recognized.
I have a meeting for the York Learning Center tomorrow evening, so I'll report the next month.
Thank you, Director Miller. Sorry. The Legislative Liaison, Director Whitmer is recognized.
Yes, thank you. I just have an interesting note in regards to the Attorney General for Pennsylvania has joined a coalition of 42 other state attorney generals in regards to acting on Congress to require the Surgeon General to put a warning on social media. And that is significant in the sense of mental health though. That's where, we find that the data on how many people are affected by social media in regards to the way they think and the choices they make, and how that affects their lives. I think this is one of those things where, a pack of cigarettes has the warning on it, and you choose whether or not to really look at it. So it may or may not have a big impact. However, I feel like, okay, if we're going to this point, we recognize that there's a big issue with this topic, and that if it's gone, to the Congress and now the U.S. Surgeon General, and they're going to put a warning on it, then maybe more families can sit down and have a real discussion about how this is affecting their kids, and maybe make some changes in the home environment.
Is there a legislative number on this?
You mean a bill?
A bill?
I didn't have one, no.
Okay. So this is the PA legislator asking the Surgeon General of the United States or
The
of the Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania Attorney General has joined a coalition of 42 other states of attorney generals.
Okay, all right. Okay.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Miller? I'm sorry, Director Whitmer. All right, the next is the Dover Industrial and Commercial Development Committee, ICDC. Director Wolverton is recognized.
I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Benton. He and I attend these meetings. He's been there much longer than I, obviously, and has a better understanding of the programs, and I'm going to give the briefing on this.
All right.
At our last meeting was basically getting ready for the first adult education night that will be held at our high school on October 9th. The survey was going to go out, form was going to go out to see how many attendees that we will see about be coming to our October 9th event, working with Toastmasters, just on communication skills, how to act within the workplace. It is going out to all the employees that are associated with the Dover Area Business Association, which was directly formed out of the ICDC and the comp plan with the 2 municipalities and with the school district on that plan. So we'll see how it goes. It's our first try, and seeing how to create a better workforce.
So we're looking at some potential revenue increases with the adult education?
This one is just as, they're just using the cafeteria, bringing them in, see how it goes, to see what the need would be in the future. I don't know, can't say, speculate on that at this moment in time.
Okay.
Okay?
Very good. All right.
Can I
Any other questions for Mr. Benton?
I do. So you said something about a survey. Is the survey prior
No,
to that?
it's, I'm sorry, misspoke, not survey. It was just an application form to attend.
Okay, so the application is pushed out through what platform?
It's through the Dover Area Business Association. It's also on Savvy Citizen. I saw it go out for anybody in the community that would also want to attend.
So they either need to be connected to the DABA or have Savvy Citizen to even know that there's an application for this? It's not being advertised?
It's a form, yeah. It's on the township's media sites that goes out to the community.
And the class is run by an outside group?
Yes,
called
right now.
Toastmasters?
Yes,
And they're only focusing on communication in the business or in the workplace,
correct,
regardless of where you work?
correct.
And did they give you any more details on the communication? I mean, that's so broad.
It's a basic starter program is what it is.
It's basic starter.
You know,
How do you sit down? How do you start, like an elevator speech, to go into an interview, start talking about how to have communication among employees with management to employees. So we just need to start with that, because too many people are focused on this, on the
Oh.
phone.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, the idea is to make the program grow eventually if it takes off and if enough people show interest, and then develop what type of topics we need to discuss in these.
So we did a survey about a year ago The number one thing among the businesses in our community was the communication aspect, so we're addressing that first, because that's coming from the survey that was done over a year ago.
But so nothing as far as adult education surveys going out in the community to find out who might be interested in a certain type of class being held, you know, like that, nothing like that. It's more like the Dover businesses have put their input and this is what they want to see.
Yeah.
This is the first step, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So the advertisement that she's referring to would be something that would come later whenever you have something started, but this is just gaining the interest of the business community, and
Seem-
Toastmasters is a good group for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're actually holding their meeting. It's going to be worked in a part of their meeting and the exercises that they teach to all of their members. So,
Very good.
Yep.
Any other questions
Anything
from
else?
the board?
Is Toastmasters paying the rate on our schedule to rent the location?
no, I'm just bringing it in for this first time.
So who's paying for the janitorial services? and
They're
some of the
already
lawn-
there, they're already
already
there
there?
working. Yeah, there's no extra time, okay?
You know, I just want to add a benefit of having Mr. Benton at that meeting every month. He knows the ins and outs. He knows, just like that, we could be covered with the janitorial services and things of that nature to get this started. So it worked out really well. He's an absolute plus to the program.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just to see where we're at in community, see what the future brings for adult ed. So you got to start somewhere, and we'll see how, and this is one of the things that the business, when you look at the bridge between education and business, this is where the businesses are asking for those needed services for their employees, is
Okay.
in the communication.
I
aspect.
didn't see the announcement on the Savvy Citizen, but I get notifications from them all the time, and I don't pay
Correct.
attention to.
Yeah, I saw it
But-
last week.
Yeah, is there a charge for this first event on October 9th?
No.
No charge, okay. Very good. Supper provided?
Actually, there will be. The Dover Area Business Association will be providing,
Pizza.
I think it's, yes, pizza for
Okay.
whoever attends.
Very good.
All right, and they're also bringing in Dover Township's recreation director will have people there to staff if anybody has a certain age group of kids to help monitor them while the parents can go through the training.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions from the board?
No, but I'd just like to say to everybody, this is basically starting groundwork level till we get done, if you'd ever want to develop into the idea of adult education classes and stuff being taught at night, welding and stuff of that nature. So this is kind of a groundwork program, is what
Right.
they're looking at. These
Makes
are the-
sense.
this is where it starts.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Benton.
Sure thing.
Appreciate that. Anything else, Mr. Wolverton?
No.
Okay. All right, let's go to agenda item 16.01, the Pennsylvania School Board Association report. Director Meese?
I don't have anything.
Nothing, okay.
No.
All right,
First time for everything.
okay. All right, now we go to Dr. Houck for the superintendent's report.
I do have a few items to share. I wanted to share that over the summer, it was announced that we have 6 of our students who received the honor of being named AP Scholars. An AP Scholar is a student who receives scores of 3 or higher on at least 3 exams, 3 or more exams. We had Olivia Murrin, who is a junior, Elizabeth Smith, who is a junior, and Megan Yinkst, who was a graduate of the class of 2024, who received that distinction. We also had 3 that were named AP Scholars with honor, and those are students who received an average score of at least 3.25 on all of their AP exams and scored 3 or higher on 4 or more of those exams. And that was Allison Albin from the class of 2024, Evan Lamison, who is a senior, and Claire Maley, who was the class of 2024. So that is quite a distinction, so we wanted to announce those. It is also my honor and pleasure to announce that Liam Hine and Kylie Smith are now high school graduates through the York Adams Academy. Liam has applied to HAC and sees himself following through with a 4-year degree in the future, and Kylie plans on entering the workforce but has aspirations of becoming a certified nurse assistant. So congratulations to the two of them. Congratulations to Caleb Hogan for his nomination as the YDR Game Time YAIAA Male Athlete of the Week for the week of September 3rd through the 7th. Caleb, who is a senior, I'm sad to hear that he's a senior, but he is. He is a member of the boys cross country team. He ran a time of 16:58 to win a quad meet at Central York. And the high school will be hosting on September 26th a county-wide family agency fair. That fair aims to provide families with information to support complex needs, such as autism, intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities. Those children often require intensive supports well into adulthood. While we do have transition services that begin at age 14 through the IEP, early planning is crucial. So this event will feature over 20 local agencies that offer direct and indirect services, giving both the families and educators the opportunity to learn more about what we have available in our community. There will be a 30-minute presentation by 2 local attorneys who will be sharing their experiences raising a child with complex needs. They will kick off the event, followed by an informal walkthrough of agency booths, and Sarah's Creamery will be there, as well as having some door prizes to be part of the event. Families from multiple school districts have already registered, and the fair originated from discussions between Dover and West York staff, leading to the formation of an entire steering committee from members from various York County school districts and agencies. So this is the first of this type of an event, so we're looking forward to that, and hopefully a lot of families will come to get some education on how to best support our children with complex needs.
Okay, any questions for Dr. Houck? All right, before we go on to our public comment period, we have a motion to approve an individual name. That's under the EPIC Special Education.
Yep, to approve an appointment under EPIC staffing, and Mrs. Allman does have the motion along with the information for the motion if you click into it.
Okay, so what we will first need to do is we'll have to get approval from the board to add this to tonight's agenda. So is there a motion to add this business to tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion.
To add it.
Second.
Okay, Director Wolverton moves and Director McKinney seconds the motion to add an additional item to tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion? All right. Mrs. Allman, let me know when you're ready to take the vote on that.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay. Mrs. Allman, please call the vote on the motion to amend the agenda, or to add this item to the agenda.
Okay, who made the motion?
That motion was made by Director Wolverton and seconded by Mr. McKinney.
Okay, the motion is ready for a vote.
Yeah, it's ready for a vote now. All right. Yeah, it's ready.
Okay,
I-
it should be open.
yeah, okay, there we go. It just popped up. Thank you.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries. All right, let's go to the language for the motion that we're going to add.
Do you want to read the motion? It won't pop up until they take.
So this is going to be,
It's the motion to approve the appointment of Nicole L. from EPIC Staffing. I did put her bio on here. Nicole is a highly experienced educator with 20 years of experience in special education, working with elementary, middle, and high school students across diverse settings, including resource and self-contained classrooms. Her expertise includes life skills, emotional support, and learning support. In addition to her teaching experience, she is a certified behavior specialist in PA. She holds her special education certification, and her bill rate will be $80. And that is the same bill rate we would get for ADD education supplement. That is a typical bill rate for teachers.
Okay, so and her last name was what?
It just has it as Nicole L. We don't get that until we get her full packet.
Okay, so agenda item 7.05 will be a motion to approve the,
The appointment of Nicole
appointment,
L.
that's
from
right.
Epic Staffing.
okay. All right, and are you going to put that up on the
You need
board?
to make a motion and a second
Okay.
before it'll display on the screen.
All right, is there a motion to approve agenda item 7.05?
I'll make a motion to approve item 7.05.
Director McKinney moves, is there a second?
Second.
Director Wolverton seconds the motion, is there any discussion?
I'm just confused. Is it 7.05? Because we already have that as ad education.
It's an additional motion
Excellent.
under 705.
So it's still, okay, thank you. But it's,
So it's 704 was this contract.
Should be,
So maybe
yeah,
we should change the
704 is
agenda
up
item to
04.
704A or something like that?
That's where I have it. These are all under Epic.
Okay. So it should be a motion to approve, 7.04, motion to approve. So
Yeah, I'll
carries.
revise my motion, 7.04.
I don't have a number with it.
Okay, it doesn't have a number right now until we.
It's just additional motions under
Okay.
that same 7.04.
Okay,
So that item has 1, 2, 3, I think three motions now.
okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So this will be under 7.04. The main point is the language in the motion, is the motion to approve the appointment of Nicole L. from Epic Staffing at a bill rate of $80. Is there any discussion? We'll figure out the numbering and all that stuff whenever you get ready to do the minutes. All right. Hearing none, Mrs. Allman, please call the vote. Thank you for pointing that out, Director Miller.
Eight yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you so much.
All right. This takes us to our second public comment period. The rules are still the same, except this will be 2 minutes per speaker for a 30-minute period.
Maria Wartz, and I will be signing in. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I want to thank you all for approving the girls wrestling. This is something I think that will be a beneficial thing to all of the girls, not just the ones in wrestling right now, but those who are doing wrestling not through the school, but through the community. I would also like to thank the 4 people who voted against using the high school. I am in District 1, and for me to go from the community center to the church, which we did last year, and then go from the church to the high school, and then go back from the high school back to the church, there are going to be so many people completely confused. And I know that the church's numbers have already been lowered because they have moved some of the voters into District 4 and into District 2. So I don't think they're going to have as much of a problem in one. But just telling us that we're going to be voting in 3 different locations within a year and a half is absolutely ridiculous. So thank you to the 4 people who voted no on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wartz. Anyone else? All right. The public comment period is closed. And we move now to future meeting announcements. On October the 8th, we will have a board planning meeting at 7 p.m. October 15th, we'll have a board meeting at 7 p.m. Just in the interest of notifying you to be watching for announcements, in our superintendent search process, we will be having focus group meetings. Individual focus group attendees will be invited by our contractor, Templeton Advantage, Mr. Tom Templeton. He'll be putting out, working in conjunction with Mrs. Jacoby to make sure we have all the proper focus groups represented. And those meeting times will be as determined. I know they're getting closer, but not quite there. There will also be a number of public meetings throughout the fall to address a number of issues associated with that. So we will have public meetings to select candidates and then to do first round interviews and all that type of thing. Not all of these meetings are going to be open to the public, but of course the interviews will not be, but we will, once all those are in, we're hoping to make a selection sometime, and I think the projection was November the 18th. Is that the date that I remember on the calendar?
I believe that is our goal.
That is our goal. We'll have to make some adjustments based on schedules of individual applicants and candidates, but we're well underway, and the website has been updated as of like 2 days ago, I think, right? And there will be some additional updates to the school website under the superintendent search tab, so be looking out for that. In addition, there will be some public notifications. You want to talk about that, Mrs. Jacoby?
We will be sending out notification to all staff. We'll also send information out to parents as well through our district systems, and then we will point the community towards our website. So to continue to look for updates as we continue to move forward in the process.
Very good. All righty. So we're moving along. All right. Any questions about that or anything I may have forgotten?
No.
All right. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Actually, I have a comment.
Okay,
I don't know if
Director
we were
Whitman.
doing our roundabouts, but there's a couple things, actually. I wanted to bring up the Veterans Day memorial dedication. Is that what they're calling it? Dedication, celebration?
Dedication.
So come Veterans Day, which is November 11th? Is it the 11th? You know, they're going to have the dedication to the memorial that's been in construction over at the high school, which is so, I'm excited for it. So I thought that opening celebration, the groundbreaking was done very well with the band, and it was moving. So I'm looking forward to that, and it's looking really good. Which brings up another topic of the ASVAB test, which I know the school will host here in October coming up. I don't know how often that's, put out there for the students and their families to think on and talk about, but I want to say that is a really great opportunity. And one of the things that I learned is that they have certified individuals who can help with personality assessment and career exploration through the results of that test. It's not a push for the military so much as it is just helping students figure out how they tested, like their abilities and their strengths in certain areas. And for me personally, I took the ASVAB here as a senior at Dover, and one thing that stood out in my characteristics was something that I never would have thought. I mean, looking back on it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I didn't use that, but I should have probably. So, but it always stuck in the back of my mind, like, oh, that test told me I was like really good in this area, and I never thought about it. So the test it's useful for many, I think, purposes for the students to take advantage of. I don't know if we could maybe advertise that a little bit more, but the last thing I wanted to say was I was searching through the website, like, just, I don't know, probably 20 minutes trying to find information on SAT testing, like when it's going to be held, how, like if a student in the community who wants to take the ASVAB or the SAT, how could they register maybe with the school? Like any information on those tests, I think could be a little bit maybe revamped to be more accessible to students and parents accessing the website, because I couldn't find any information on the SAT test. I was under the high school, scrolling down through, I think a newsletter may have had something about the ASVAB in it, but I didn't see anything about SAT tests. So Dr. Houck, do you know when the first SAT testing is scheduled?
I do not off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Well, point well taken. I walked right by the board comments, so Director Wolfton, do you have anything?
When you're going to do an executive session or anything of that nature, maybe the day before you can put out on the telephone as much as anything the idea of what time they're going to start, because depending where I'm at, I know I don't have access to a computer.
You talking about the reminders I sent out,
yeah.
the start times? Okay. I can try to
That's all
do
I
that.
have, yes.
I'll do my best. I didn't do it today.
Yeah, I know.
I was wrapped up, and I apologize. But you were here. That's the good news.
Yeah, I haven't. Terry called me and told me he wasn't going to be here, and then I asked him, I said, what time does it start?
Okay.
Usually six.
Do you have anything else, Director Whitmer?
No, thank you.
Director Meese?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Director McKinney?
Well, speaking of the Veterans Memorial, they are still, I have the minutes from the Dover Eagle Foundation meeting, they are still taking sponsorships for paver bricks to engrave if you know anyone. So I actually might do that.
They're still doing that?
That's what it said.
I thought they were already in the ground.
As of
I'm glad you brought that up
last
because I
time I was
wanted to know a
there, there
deadline.
was a pile of them. They were
Yeah.
not all in, but
Could we find out a
How much are
deadline
they?
on how long, like, I think they're 100. How long they're taking those?
okay. I could actually reach out to
Well, I think Dr. Houck said she has a meeting with him soon.
Brad.
I do, I have a
Brad
meeting
Jacobs.
with Mr. Jacobs coming
Okay,
up.
yeah, I would like to know if they still are. This is a couple weeks old, this email from them, so it's possible that deadline has passed, but yeah,
Might
they
just
are.
take one out and replace it.
They did have a
Take
lot of
blank
blanks. Last time I
out.
was there were a lot of blanks.
Yeah.
They did have a setback with the pavers because they
Color
had
match.
3 skids and only,
One of
and
them
one of them
didn't
came
match.
back not matching the color of the other. So there was
Yeah.
a little bit of a delay there.
Yeah, so that's going to be corrected in time, so. Also, Director Hogan and I were invited to a local Dover Youth Sports group. Do you want me to talk about this a little bit? Okay. There was a meeting with, let's see, it was the Township Parks and Recreation Department and board members from each of the Dover Youth sports leagues. They were pretty much all representative. And they want to better organize Dover youth sports to get out the advertising more, to promote it more, to be able to build the numbers more. They want to work on facilities use, finding more places to play. So they invited Alan and I to just be a school representative, and I've been on the baseball board in the past too. So there'll be a lot more to come on that. We just had our first meeting. It was just an overview, introduction of their plan, but they want to better bring together all the Dover youth sports organizations to work together more in the future. So it's promising.
Very
Okay.
good.
And we can jump to Alan if he has anything immediately to add to it, since we're on the topic.
I don't have anything to add to that.
All right.
Okay. Dr. Howell?
No, nothing, thank you.
Okay.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay. Director Miller?
I just want to publicly say thank you to the district. My mother-in-law had some health issues at the football game Friday night, and I was thoroughly pleased with how everyone from Dr. Houck on down helped her and helped our family take care of her. So it was wonderful, and I just want everybody to know thank you, and it was very much appreciated.
All right, very good. Thank you. Director Hogan?
I took the ASVAB to get out of class.
Did you learn something?
Now, then I got a letter from the U.S. Army that said, hey, we want you on our nuclear facility team. I'm like, I don't think so. But anyway. So I'd like to talk about the crosswalk between the middle school and the high school. I did get a response from the township and they feel like the need is warranted and that we should pursue it. He gave me options, or he gave us options as to what we can do to make it more visible. You know, I think some of them were, one of them was a push button, and then there's other flashing things. So I did notice in the exchange, the question was who pays for it? And from my research that I did in Pennsylvania law, at least what I could determine, it appears the township's responsible for that, those costs. But in any case, I'm not sure how to proceed. You know, if like, what's it mean when the school should take it up and pursue it? Do we form a committee, or?
Well, I think we've already somewhat taken it up. We haven't taken any official action on it, but quite a few of the board members have submitted concerns to PennDOT through their website, which I encourage the public as an awareness. If you go to the PennDOT website, which is penndot.pa.gov, right in the middle, at the top of their banner, there is a little bubble. It's like the speaking cartoon bubble. It says submit a concern, and when you do that, it'll open up a page that says new concerns. If you haven't already submitted one, if you submitted one, you have to use your reference number on an existing concern, but submit a new concern and tell them what your concerns are about that intersection. I submitted one, and it only took me about 5 minutes. I got an email back from PennDOT right away. I haven't been contacted by anyone asking for any subsequent information. But I know a number of other directors shared the responses they got back as well as their input. I think that's bringing some issue. I've been in discussion with Steve Parr-III about the issue as well. I saw the correspondence that you're referencing from the township, and I don't know who's going to be responsible. You would think that the state would at least help us out, but I think State Road 921 apparently ends at the intersection in the township. I don't, according to what I saw, it doesn't continue as a state road past Carlisle Road. I might be wrong on that, but I saw something on that. So in any case, that may be the reason they're saying it's a township issue. So I think we just need to keep pushing the issue. I do know that we have a safety concern there. We've had, as evidenced by concerns, excuse me, that were expressed before we had any incidences. You were one of the first from the, to bring it to my attention, hey, this is not safe down here. And then the very next week we had a collision, and then a week or two later we had the bicycle and vehicle that collided. And I don't know what role Northern New York Regional plays in this, but it would help if they're on our side, so if you want to contact them. I think that plays a factor. I don't know if the district administration has filed any official concerns, but I would encourage them to probably do that. The last thing we would want to happen is somebody gets injured or worse out there, and we didn't do enough in advance. So
Mrs. Weaver has spoken to, I don't know if she's back there, is she? So she had a phone call, so she was part of that phone call, I was not, that the district would have to begin conversations with with ELA, the engineer. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you heard?
Yeah, what I did hear is that there were some concerns. There was supposed to be some follow-up with regards to that intersection. Obviously, there's been a lot of turnover in my office and in Mr. Fluke's office, so that never took place. However, it is not the township's responsibility to pay for it. It will be the district's. And once whatever's done is done, it will be turned over to the township to keep track of.
To maintain.
To maintain, yeah. So it's district's responsibility to pay for it.
So my question is, why do you say it's? I thought, and it's kind of like I'm not coming with the part of the law that I read. I sent that out. Rob, you were nodding your head, right? That So anyway,
I spoke with the township, I spoke with John McLucas, and they're
yeah,
not,
that John
they're not
McLucas was,
required to pay
well,
for it.
the John McLucas was the one who was questioning it, and because of that question, I did the research. And then, but in any case, we don't have to decide who's paying for it or not, but I'm not 100% positive that it's on us just because the township says that it's on us.
So certainly something worth
Right,
investigating.
that's what I'm gonna do.
Perhaps we can find a safety grant.
Well, I think Mr. Pratt would have to look into that and give us, because they're going to tell us we have to pay for it. The first thing we have to do is find out who owns the road. That's the most important part. Because if PennDOT owns the road, it might be a little bit simpler. I mean, I have a quick, not funny, but I have a quick story that kind of goes in line with this. When we lived on Admire Road about 20 years ago, it's a state-owned road. People go down the road at like 90 miles an hour. Somebody hit our dog going about 90 miles an hour. We lost our dog. So I called the transportation at the time and asked them to put a bus stop sign there because my kids are at the end of the road waiting for their bus. And I saw like the cars fly down that road. You know, if anybody knows Admire Road, they fly down the road. So they told me, the transportation company told me that I had to contact PennDOT because it's a state-owned road. So I contacted PennDOT and told them what happened, and they said, absolutely, we'll come put a sign out. So they came and put a sign out. So I don't know, that was 20 years ago. And that's probably a more simple fix than this, but if it is a state-owned road, what we did with the PennDOT, submitting to PennDOT, I think is the right direction. But if it's not a state-owned road, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure from there, but that's just a little background
My
information.
response from PennDOT was they deferred it to the township.
So it must not be state-owned then.
They didn't say why, but
But I don't understand if PennDOT put the sign up, why wouldn't the township kind of like take the same responsibility? But I don't know. Again, 20 years ago. It's worth looking into.
I don't put a lot of credibility in Wikipedia, but it came up on my quick search. State Road 921, the western terminus is PA 74 in Dover. That's what's listed there.
What does it say again?
The western terminus of State Road 921 is Dover.
Terminates there on the
So
square.
that's 74.
Yeah, Route 74, yes. So that validates what I had seen in other places. So it says that State Road 921 is a 10-mile long state highway that runs basically from Manchester to Dover. Doesn't go west of 74. So that would mean it's a local road, if that's accurate. I looked up State Road 921 on the PennDOT website and didn't get anything. But there are some forms, publications, and maps that are in there, and I'm sure that I could probably find it in there if I took the time. But I'm surprised that they would make a school district pay for signs, crosswalk.
Was it in, we'd have to look back at our contract, our scope of work with the engineering company and whoever our general contractor was, and see if that was in that scope of work that was just never completed.
That's
Because that
possible.
might be, we can look back on that. I'm sure, because from what I understood from those emails back and forth, it was brought up, but then maybe just, people just forgot about it when it comes time to do, punch list walkthroughs and stuff like that. They just kind of forgot about that.
I'm wanting to say it was an email from Mr. Perkins. There was some widening of the crosswalk and improved lines or something that was put on when they built the high school. I don't know if anybody here remembers that. I remember reading
Yes.
that. I wasn't here when it happened.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that may have met the
But there were
requirements.
some things that weren't done with that scope of work and that weren't done that we had to finish up as well. So this may have been another thing that wasn't done that should have been. So I think I forget, who was the general contractor? Was it Lobar? Lobar? Yeah, so maybe checking
It
with
was
them.
Lobar.
Our contract with Lobar. Can somebody answer quick on that kind of same note, but not, why is there a turning lane going into a do not enter?
it's gotten me a few times.
Because while we're talking about this, I think that's a significant safety issue as
Talking about
well.
an intermediate road?
There was an arrow
Yes.
pointing you, directing you into.
There's a
do
turning
not
lane.
enter.
Yeah, there's a lane with an arrow to turn into a do not enter. When my son started at Dover High School, I had to, like, I drove him there and I was like, do not get in this turning lane, you know, for when your first day of school. I mean, that's,
As you're approaching the high school, the first opening that you get to,
yep.
there is a turning lane,
Yep.
there's an arrow directing
Yep.
you into it.
And then a do
And
not
you
enter
don't see
sign.
the do not enter
Until
in
you're
there.
already like turned in.
Got me a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should maybe address both those things at the same time.
Do you have something to add to that? I can't picture it in my head.
Just gotta get rid of the arrow, paint over it.
Yeah, Mr.
Yeah,
Benton,
just
if you would come to the
blacktop it.
podium.
I'm trying to picture which one you're talking about.
Hill, probably. It's the first entrance.
Right after the big.
Yeah,
slide
it's
that
the
goes
first
down.
entrance. It's because,
It's an exit, actually.
like anything, first laid plans, the architect, it looked like it would work.
Yeah.
We changed those signs so students don't go in that bottom entrance, that they come in from the top, because students were having accidents within the parking lot
I get
of
it.
going.
Yeah, I get it.
We cannot change the road paint out in that road. We can only change the signage on our property.
I'm surprised we got a C of O, or did we change that after we got our C of O? We put those signs up after, because that. I'm
Yes, we
surprised.
changed it after being in there after 2 years and all the accidents that we were having with students, and the flow just didn't work. So we changed it when Mr. Floof came.
That's probably why I have the habit of turning in
Okay.
there.
Okay? That's the reason why.
you.
Yeah, it just didn't work, and we had way too many accidents inside. And we
I'm
worked,
surprised the township engineer hasn't said anything. He might now.
because it's on, no, it's on our property. We can still do it.
Fixed with the
So we
crosswalk.
probably
No,
need
I
to
mean,
talk to somebody.
The traffic engineer
Well-
approves those signs, for sure. Like, I don't, our traffic engineer, like, in the land development plan, the signage on even, on internal properties is determined by the land development plan and the traffic engineer.
I'm sure we could make a case. I think the flow right now works
Yeah, yeah,
so
I-
It
well.
works,
I
it works,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah.
We've cut down, we haven't had near the amount of
I
accidents.
agree with it, I agree with it, I just think,
So-
you know, a lot of visitors coming in, and I actually thought about it with the polling situation, that if we used it as a polling location, when I went to the high school the other day, I thought, this is gonna be a problem, because people that don't go to our school don't know that.
So maybe we could talk to, is that a township road? Because
Did
didn't,
they adopt that road?
It depends on what side of the road you're talking. One's township, one's borough.
It's the center of.
that's crazy.
And it depends on who has to repair it, whether it's at the curb or at this yellow line.
Number 7 on my to-do list.
So it depends on.
Let's get everybody together.
it's-
Taking the LU to fix it?
Let's make a
It,
list.
it is,
Bring a
it is,
seal
wh-
coater in.
and I think some of it too,
Middle of the night.
I think whenever the development, all the new apartments, they're gonna have to come back and finish some things on that road. I don't think that road is completely finished yet.
Yes.
Until all the development
The
is
repaving.
done up to Harmony
Yeah.
Grove. All right?
Maybe we can
So-
address it in enough time to get it all taken care of.
Yes, all at once.
So, all right?
Should probably
So I
start
found
this-
I found it. So this is what I was referring to earlier. Pursuant to Title 67 PA Code, Infinity Sign 212.5 B14C. The local municipality is responsible for the installation and maintenance of painted crosswalks and crosswalk signing at intersections.
Local
So-
municipality, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I found, unless the internet's wrong or something of that sort. That's what I found.
Okay. Well, that's to be determined, I'm sure. All right, so thank you for that. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Director Wolverton moves to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Director Whitmer?
Yes.
Okay, any opposition?